Have you ever stopped to think that the first 15 minutes after you wake up can define not only your day, but also your ability to live independently? That Tuesday morning, Mr. Johnson, a 75-year-old who swam 3 times a week and did his own grocery shopping, woke up like any other day. He stretched his arms, quickly turned his body to the side of the bed, and got up in one swift movement, 2 steps towards the kitchen, and without any warning, everything went dark. When his daughter found him an hour later, he was lying on the living room floor, confused and scared. The diagnosis? Orthostatic hypotension, a sudden drop in blood pressure caused simply by the way he got out of bed. The most alarming thing? This isn't an isolated incident. Every 11 seconds, a senior citizen is admitted to the emergency room because of falls, and many of them happen in the early hours of the day. You know what's even more surprising? Most of these situations could be avoided with small changes in the morning routine, changes so simple that they seem insignificant, but can be the difference between maintaining your freedom and losing your independence. Today, I'm going to reveal the 7 most dangerous morning mistakes that people over 70 make daily, often without realizing it. These are seemingly harmless habits that silently undermine your balance, energy, and even your mental disposition. And what's worse, few doctors warn about these risks during routine checkups. I'm Dr. Alexander King, a geriatric physician dedicated to transforming longevity into a synonym for freedom and not limitation. Mistake 1. Getting out of bed abruptly. Imagine your body as a complex hydraulic system. During the night, while you're lying down, your blood circulates evenly. But when you get up suddenly, gravity pulls that blood down, away from the brain, causing a temporary drop in blood pressure. For young people, this adjustment is almost instantaneous. For seniors, it can take up to 15 seconds. In that short interval, your brain receives less oxygen, resulting in dizziness, blurred vision, or in severe cases, complete fainting. That's exactly what happened to Mrs. Smith, 82. For more than 6 decades, she had gotten up the same way. A quick, direct movement. I never had problems, she told me during a consultation. Until one morning, this lifelong habit led her straight to the hospital with a deep cut on her forehead and a fractured wrist, all because her body could no longer adjust her blood pressure with the same efficiency as before. The solution is surprisingly simple. Adopt the 3-minute rule. When you wake up, first move your feet and hands while still lying down. Then, sit on the edge of the bed and take 5 deep breaths. Only then, place both feet firmly on the floor and stand up. This process allows your blood pressure to adjust gradually, drastically reducing the risk of dizziness or falling. Recent studies from the University of Michigan show that just this simple change reduced morning falls by 24% in groups observed over a year. And even more impressive, participants who adopted this technique reported an improvement in their overall mood throughout the day. A question to ponder: have you ever felt dizzy getting out of bed in the morning? Can you imagine how such a small change could protect your independence in the years to come? Mistake 2. Ignoring morning hydration. During sleep, your body continues working and losing fluids through breathing and sweating. After 7-8 hours of fluid fasting, you wake up naturally dehydrated. For young adults, this mild dehydration is just an inconvenience. For seniors, it can trigger a series of problems. Mr. Miller, a 77-year-old retired teacher, had the habit of starting his day with a cup of coffee, completely ignoring water. Coffee hydrates too, doesn't it? He asked me once. Actually, no. Caffeine has a diuretic effect, meaning it can further increase dehydration. After months of ignoring the signs, dry mouth, dark urine, morning headaches, he suffered an episode of acute mental confusion that frightened his entire family. The diagnosis in the hospital: moderate dehydration. The aging body has less efficient thirst mechanisms and a reduced ability to conserve water. Morning dehydration can trigger fatigue, mental confusion, dizziness, and even increase blood viscosity, raising the risk of cardiovascular problems. Even more alarming, dehydration is often mistaken for dementia in seniors. leading to misdiagnoses. The solution is simple. Put a glass of water on your bedside table before bed. When you wake up, even before getting up, drink this entire glass in small sips. This simple practice activates your digestive system, rehydrates your body, and prepares your muscles and joints for the day's movements. A study by the National Institute on Aging found that seniors who started the day with 10 ounces of water performed better on morning cognitive tests and had greater stability when walking in the early hours of the day. Do you usually drink water as soon as you wake up, or do you skip straight to coffee? Have you noticed how your mood changes when you stay well hydrated from the start of the day? Mistake 3. Neglecting exposure to natural light. Mrs. Davis was 81 years old and had a persistent problem. She couldn't fall asleep before 1 a.m. and, consequently, woke up later and later, often missing the entire morning. She came to me when she realized that this cycle was affecting her social life and her mood. "Doctor, I'm turning into an old owl," she joked, but her concern was genuine. What Mrs. Davis didn't know was that she had been neglecting one of the most powerful regulators of our body for years: morning natural light. Our biological clock, or circadian rhythm, relies heavily on light exposure to calibrate itself. Morning natural light suppresses the production of melatonin, sleep hormone, and increases the production of serotonin and cortisol, preparing the body for the day's activities. With aging, our eyes capture less light, and our biological clock tends to become more easily dysregulated. This explains why so many seniors suffer from nocturnal insomnia and daytime sleepiness. Furthermore, lack of exposure to morning light is linked to an increase in depressive symptoms, a problem that affects 15 to 20% of people over 65. The intervention I recommended for Mrs. Davis was to open the curtains as soon as she woke up and, if possible, have her breakfast near a sunny window. For more severe cases, I suggest 15 to 20 minutes of walking outdoors before 10 a.m. After 3 weeks of following this recommendation, she began to fall asleep naturally around 10 p.m. and wake up rested at 6:30 a.m. Researchers at the University of Colorado found that just 1 week of adequate exposure to natural light can advance the biological clock of seniors by up to 2 hours, significantly improving the quality of nighttime sleep. Do you usually expose yourself to natural light first thing in the morning? Have you noticed how your mood and energy change when you spend a few days without properly seeing the morning sunlight? Mistake 4. Taking medication on an empty stomach. Mr. Brown, 73, was extremely disciplined with his medications for blood pressure and cholesterol. Every day upon waking up, the first thing he did was swallow his pills with a small sip of water before even eating anything. "That way I don't forget," he justified. What he didn't know was that this discipline was causing inadequate absorption of some medications and unnecessary gastric irritation. Many medications commonly prescribed for seniors, such as anti-inflammatories, some antihypertensives, and calcium supplements, are better absorbed when taken with food. Others, like levothyroxine for the thyroid, need to be taken on an empty stomach. The problem is that few patients receive clear guidance on this or simply don't follow it for convenience. The consequences can be serious, from reduced effectiveness of medications to gastrointestinal problems such as gastritis, chronic heartburn, and even ulcers. In Mr. Brown's case, he suffered from frequent stomach pains that he mistakenly attributed to age, when in reality, it was the way he took his medications that was causing the problem. The solution involves creating a personalized system. First, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about each medication you take. Some should be taken before meals, others during, others after. Then, organize them visibly in marked compartments. If possible, use cell phone reminders not only for the time, but also for the appropriate condition, fasting or after a meal. A study from the College of Pharmacy at the University of Southern California showed that up to 64% of seniors take at least one medication inappropriately in relation to meals, which can reduce the effectiveness of treatment by up to 30% in some cases. Do you usually check if your medication should be taken with food or on an empty stomach? Have you felt stomach discomfort after taking some medicine right after waking up? Mistake 5. Skipping morning stretches. I wake up stiff as a board, but I get better throughout the day. This phrase, repeated by Mr. Williams, 81, during a consultation, perfectly illustrates what happens when we ignore morning stretching. What he didn't know was that stiffness wasn't simply something to be tolerated. It was an invitation to falls and injuries. During sleep, your body remains relatively still for hours. With aging, this nighttime inactivity results in greater morning stiffness due to the natural reduction in tissue elasticity and joint lubrication. Your muscles and tendons become contracted, your joints less mobile, and your balance, which depends directly on flexibility, is compromised. It's no coincidence that many falls happen in the first movements of the day. In addition, morning muscle stiffness can affect your posture, impairing breathing, and even your confidence to perform daily activities. Over time, many seniors begin to limit their movements out of fear, creating a vicious cycle of increasing immobility. The solution that transformed Mr. Williams's life was a simple 5-minute ritual still in bed. Gentle stretches for the neck, shoulders, back, hips, and ankles. Circular movements of the main joints, followed by deep breaths associated with stretches of arms and legs. For people with more compromised mobility, even assisted stretches, using a fabric band to help with movement, can make a big difference. A longitudinal study conducted in Sweden followed 2 groups of seniors for 15 years. The group that maintained a regular routine of morning stretches had 28% fewer falls and 35% fewer fractures related to falls compared to the control group. Do you usually do some kind of stretching before getting out of bed? Have you noticed how your first steps of the day are different when you take a few minutes to prepare your body for movement? Mistake 6. Ignoring the first meal of the day. Mrs. Wilson, 77, had the habit of skipping breakfast. I never feel hungry at that time. What she didn't realize was the metabolic roller coaster that this created. Her body, after hours of fasting during sleep, continued without adequate fuel, precisely when it needed energy to start the day's activities. Skipping breakfast has particularly serious consequences for seniors. First, it creates dangerous fluctuations in blood sugar, which can cause dizziness, muscle weakness, and even fainting, all risk factors for falls. Second, this practice is associated with worse food choices throughout the day, as the hungry body tends to seek compensation in more caloric and less nutritious foods later. Even more worrying, recent studies suggest that prolonged morning fasting is associated with a more accelerated cognitive decline in seniors. Your brain, which consumes about 20% of the body's total energy, is literally running low when you extend the night fast for many hours after waking up. The change I recommended for Mrs. Wilson wasn't drastic. Start with something small and nutritious, even without hunger. A banana with a handful of nuts, yogurt with fruit, or even a simple smoothie. The important thing is to provide the body with protein, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fats in the first 30 minutes after waking up. After a few weeks, she reported a noticeable difference. My energy lasts longer. I no longer have that slump after lunch, and I stopped feeling dizzy when I bend down to tie my shoes. Researchers at the University of Missouri found that seniors who consume at least 20 grams of protein for breakfast maintain better muscle mass and have greater strength and balance throughout the day, compared to those who concentrate their protein consumption only at lunch and dinner. Do you usually have a balanced first meal in the morning? Have you noticed any difference in your energy and concentration when you skip that meal? Mistake 7. Starting the day with negative news. Anderson, a 79-year-old retired engineer who, without realizing it, was starting each day with a concentrated dose of stress and negativity. What Mr. Anderson was doing, and what millions of seniors also do, was exposing his newly awakened brain to a bombardment of negative news, whether through television, radio, or increasingly common, through cell phones. This seemingly harmless habit triggers a cascade of stress hormones, mainly cortisol and adrenaline, which affect the body in several ways. They raise blood pressure, increase heart rate, and generate muscle tension. For the aging brain, particularly sensitive to stress, this morning exposure to negative news can result in prolonged anxiety, ruminating thoughts, and even depressive symptoms. In addition, this heightened state of alertness consumes valuable mental energy early in the day when important decisions need to be made. The alternative I suggested to Mr. Anderson was simple: establish a news-free zone in the first 2 hours of the day. Instead of starting with the newspaper or the newsfeed, he began to dedicate this time to more positive practices: a light walk, pleasant music during breakfast, or even a few minutes of gardening, his favorite hobby. The result? "It's like I've reclaimed my mornings," he reported weeks later. "I feel calmer, make better decisions, and the news is still there when I decide to see it, but it no longer dominates my day." Researchers at Stanford University found that exposure to negative news right after waking up can raise cortisol levels by up to 27% for the next 3 hours, particularly affecting the brain's executive function, precisely the skills needed to plan the day, make decisions, and maintain physical and emotional balance. Do you usually check the news right after waking up? Have you tried spending the first hours of your day completely disconnected from potentially stressful information? We've reached the end of this journey through the 7 morning mistakes that may be silently compromising your independence. As we've seen, these are simple habits that, over time, create serious consequences: getting up abruptly, ignoring hydration, neglecting natural light, taking medication incorrectly, skipping stretching, ignoring the first meal, and starting the day with negative news. What impresses me is how small changes can bring profound results. Mr. Johnson, whom I mentioned at the beginning, now at 77, has completely transformed his mornings. He adopted the 3-minute rule for getting out of bed, keeps a glass of water on his bedside table, does a series of gentle stretches before putting his feet on the floor, and has his breakfast next to the sunny kitchen window, away from disturbing news. The result? He not only avoided new falls, but also regained the confidence to go out alone. "Doctor Alex," he told me at the last consultation, "I've gotten my mornings back, and with them, my independence. And that's the message I want to leave you with. We're not just talking about preventing accidents. We're talking about preserving your autonomy, your dignity, and your ability to live life on your own terms. Because true longevity is not only measured in years lived, but in how much freedom and joy you experience in each of those years." Tomorrow, when the sun rises, I invite you to choose just one of these habits to transform. Maybe it's putting that glass of water next to your bed tonight, or scheduling 5 extra minutes to stretch before getting up. Start with a small change. Observe how you feel, and gradually incorporate the others. If this video brought you any value, I ask for 2 simple favors. First, share it with someone you love, especially if that person is over 60 years old. Second, subscribe to the channel to receive more content that can transform not only your longevity, but also your quality of life. Remember, every morning is a new opportunity to rewrite your story, and the decisions you make in the first 30 minutes after waking up have the power to shape not only your day, but potentially years of your life. Take care of these precious minutes as the treasure they really are. This is Dr. Alexander King, and my mission is to transform longevity into a synonym for freedom, not limitation. Until the next video, and have not only a long but a free path through life.